I'm Oscar. We'll speak about migration of policies, of firewall policies. I'm not talking about the choice of the solutions. I'm talking about actually moving to some kind of a Russian solution. Which exact one, it doesn't really matter because it mainly depends on your needs, depends on the functions, and in one case, one thing will be more suitable. In another case, another one, as a checkpoint expert, having a certificate which dates back to 2008, it's very difficult to speak about it. But we will have to migrate to the Russian solution sooner or later. Russian firewall solution, but the more mature the Russian solutions become, the more bigger customers test them, and the more interesting cases we actually see. There is one case where we started. It's the case of migrating to user-gate from checkpoint. We had a policy with 2,000 rules, with 2,000 plus objects. We had services which had been written manually with the changed ports. So to make a proper pilot, we had to move it to user-gate firewall. So we took the GitHub utility, we started having that utility, and some of the objects would not be transferred. It would stumble upon some of the rules. So we started moving step by step. Manually, we'd have to include different types of rules, stipulate APIs that would not drop the firewall when loading. So we coped with that, and ultimately that 2,000 plus rules was completed with this case by case. So here it's not over. There was a migration from checkpoint to continent to user-gate, and thus we transferred the firewall policies, and we have this in presence in its entirety. So if this NGFW market is saturated with new solutions, sometimes the customers find 3 or 4 vendors at tests, and each of these vendors should be checked and verified with the security policy that the customer uses. It's the current policy that these tests should be conducted, and why? I'll try to convey this to you. This market does not stop. I've seen 5 of the developers of the new firewall solutions, and we spoke about positive technologies, NGFW, and new firewalls will appear. As previously we moved to checkpoint, to Cisco, etc., with different options, but after the first wave of replacing the foreign products, when we move to WebNet, user-gate, new players will emerge, and we'll have to migrate to Russian solutions from Russian solutions. Another point which is dictated by this engineering background I have. When we update the version of the firewall to the new version, you need to do it from scratch, and you need to migrate this as a configuration so that we do not inherit the previous binaries. So we need to work with policy along the way as we progress with this firewall design. So if we make this work much more systematic, it will seem that this policy of firewalls is simple. It's the source destination protocol, our main fields. But if we speak about NGFW, a lot more additional fields are added. Types of protocols, users, the time, the rule enacts services. Also, we have these architectural differences of some firewalls connected to the interfaces, and anti-spoofing is described in different ways. And there are some frills that we have in the Western ones, the tags, the colors, and some customers stipulate them as very important fields just to make sure that the policy is used properly to recognize which object is used for what. So basically, we would like to maintain that and keep that. Let's just check a few examples here. For example, embedded groups. Our Western solutions, checkpoint. You see, the policies are described with the use of the objects, and these objects can be combined in groups and yet to another group. So when we move this policy to the Russian firewall solution, we see that the Russian firewall solution don't have these embedded, included groups. So we'll have to be able to drill down these groups, raise them to a higher level, and not break the logic of the policy. So it would not support some of the ranges, etc., etc. And I forgot to mention that I'm going to show you some screenshots of various Russian solutions, but please do not perceive this as the comparison, or I'm not attempting to criticize them. There are some architectural features, and there will be a new firewall solution with the same functionality, I guess. Of course, we are used to having a very convenient table with the fields of the initial packet, translated packet as well. In the Russian solutions, we can see that we'd have to select the type of translation for the object. We change the source, or we just change the destination. And when we shift the rule, when source changed and destination changed, it becomes not such a trivial task. We can, of course, do that, but this rule will not be transferred one by one.
Следующий слайд.
Where's my next slide, by the way?
Безусловно, разный набор приложений.
Of course, there's a different set of applications. The base for the applications may be very much different, but even if we do not speak about such applications as Skype, when we just speak about the protocols, obviously our options to filter the protocols may also be different. ICMP protocol example, which has different variations for requests. On top, there is a rule which is written at checkpoint, how many in services, and to how many it turns into the Russian solution. Some architectural features, if we shift this rule by one by one, like I said, it will not necessarily work. A lot of Russian solutions start from a proxy server. So in order to make sure that this policy works with all of the checks and it goes through the IPS inspection, so the control of the apps do work. We do not need just to check the rules, but if we just simply shift the policy, it will not guarantee that this work will be done and this policy will actually start working. So after we have shifted this policy, that policy really works well, we have created some testing for the policy with the traffic generator. We shift this policy, we come up with a few cases for our policy with the T-Rex. We check traffic and we see that this policy really fulfills. This testing revealed a few interesting cases that firewalls stumble upon a certain number of rules.
Сложные операции, да, то есть если очень
Some of the operations, drops, for example,
хотя, казалось бы, для межэкрана дроп быть самое простое,
get the firewall degrade in its performance.
мы у себя в компании с ребятами
In our company, we have assembled lots of such similar cases, and we decided to write a utility which would help us migrate policies from one firewall to another. For me, it was very interesting that the experience we had, the experience we accumulate with these policies would be applied to a different customer as well. So for the guys, it was a challenge in programming. This utility is actually written by experts in firewall security. So what do we do here? We first of all collect the policies with the available APIs. These policies are transferred to the internal normalized base, so it does not turn into a target solution. So we have it in the normalized base, and we can do different changes. We can apply changes that are required for the customers. For example, the customer wouldn't want us to transfer the object. So sometimes the NGFW does not support dozens of rules, and these rules should be optimized and swapped to the target system. So this helps us create heuristics for the target customer correspondingly. We just need to check and verify that the policy has been uploaded correctly, just to make sure that we can make a few manual changes in it. It looks like a web interface in actual fact. We input this policy in the system, the configuration is stored inside the system, and we can use it to restore backup copies. So if we damage a policy somewhere, you can use a backup copy to restore it from.
Решение можно посмотреть на нашем стенде, который...
You can check this solution at our booth, at our demo area. This is not actually a box solution. It's not a product that you can just buy. Of course, we sell it as a service as we implement this solution. Our engineers will adapt it to your particular case, but the advantage here is that this utility remains with you, and we have top-level engineers that can continue using it with some requirements that are specific for them without our direct support. Thank you very much for listening.
Вопросы есть или времени нет?
Do we have time for questions? I'm Anton Solozhenko from InfoWatch. How do you select vendors, Russian NGFW vendors? Does it more translate from the customer side, or you check it on your own and choose the utilities to transfer these from Checkpoint? We check all of the solutions in the market, all the available solutions in the market. Over 1 month, I met 5 new suppliers, 5 new vendors. InfoWatch, for instance, if the vendor is ready to give this product for testing to us, sometimes they don't. We deploy them in labs. If this product has an API, we put this enterprise policy there, which covers all of the needs. We inject this as a solution, and we check and verify with T-Rex, test how it works. So our task is to choose the most appropriate one. So it does not just start with cases. As an integrator, we'd often recommend the customer which solution they need to take, what pluses and minuses they have, but we try to be friends with the industry and we try to take whatever this industry offers us. Well, my time's up. Please join our booth over there. Engineers and developers are also there at the booth. Ilya is sitting here. Sergey is with us here. Please come up to them at the booth. And thank you very much for joining me here.